Electric Cafe.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Electric Cafe. In this video, I'll be reviewing The's debut album from 1984 called Soul Mining. This is the third time The's been featured on my channel. I reviewed their second album, Infected, from 1986. I gave that a 70 out of 100. And also their third album, Mind Bomb, which I gave a 73 from 1989. Both albums I think are very good, and going into Soul Mining, I know how excellent this album is. It's a longtime favorite. You can see a couple copies, American copies, and I have a couple of CD copies as well. It's one of those albums that there's a few albums, and it's funny that Massive Attack is actually right there, because that's another album that a lot of times over the years I would. If I saw it in the used bin, I would just buy it for somebody else and give it to somebody else in the record store. Like, it's one of those albums that you just buy for people. Like, anytime you see it in a used bin, you just buy it. It shouldn't be in the used. It shouldn't be there. Like, you just want to buy it. Like, all right, that's good enough. I'll get an extra copy, or I'll give it to somebody else. I can't tell you how many times I've given this album to somebody else. Over the years, I've had so many copies of this record. And it's funny because this copy right here, you can see is, I don't know if you can see it, but, excuse me, $3.49. Like, how could you pass up that? This is probably 20, 30 years ago when I bought this particular copy, because it was that low. But it's just one of those albums that it's just amazing. And so going into this, I have obviously very high expectations for scoring this album. And the funny thing is it even exceeded those high expectations once again. It's one of those albums that I just can't say enough good things about. I'm going to try to do my best to keep this video under 20 minutes and not keep talking about this album, but I definitely wanted to review it, go through the tracks, and also share some of my thoughts about just Matt Johnson in general, and some of my thoughts about the music in here. And just every time I hear this album, it brings up some certain things that I don't normally do with a record, and one of those is read the lyrics. Like, Matt Johnson is such an interesting writer and lyricist, lead singer, producer. He's just I can't say I can say so many good words about him, and so many things that describe him that really stick in my mind when I think of it. But he's one of those ones that I don't like to laud people to the effect of like calling them a genius. But there's a handful of artists that they're so creative, and they're so different, and they're so unique, and it's hard not to give Matt Johnson the title of musical genius. Like every time I listen to his music, and one of the things that's really interesting is when I think of like a genius, a lot of times I think of like somebody who can make music that you normally wouldn't like, and you really like it. And like a lot of times Matt Johnson uses instrumentation that I normally wouldn't like. Like in This Is the Day, I mean, he's got a harmonica and a fiddle. I mean, that's something I would normally put in my synth pop. I'm an electronic music fan, and for me to love this song as much as I do, and there's a fiddle and a harmonica, just goes to show you how amazing he is. And that's kind of a level of genius that I look for sometimes, and sometimes I don't even look for it. It just kind of pops up, and I'm like, then I start thinking about it, like, that's a song I wouldn't normally like, and not only do I like it, but I love it. And that's kind of the level of Matt Johnson is at. Like, he can really do that with music, but also do that with his lyrics. I'm not one to read lyrics a lot. I used to do it when I was a little bit younger, but the last like 20, 30 years, I rarely care about what a songwriter has to say. I care more about the harmonies and the melodies and the drums and all the instruments and stuff like that. But I could care less about the lyrics. But whenever I get to a Matt Johnson one, I'm like, what is he talking about? And I'm trying to figure out what he's describing. He always has really interesting lyrics. Bear with me while I read some of my notes here, but he always has really interesting lyrics. The way he describes things, the perspective he gives. Um, I get a lot. I get a lot of times that when I listen to his lyrics, that he's very disappointed with the human race, like the decisions other people make. But he's not. He's not shy and he's not egotistical enough to not point out his maybe bad decisions or indecisions as well. Like he talks about that himself and dumb things he's done, and so there's a transparency there that is so genuine and so likable about Matt, and he can be, and he does it all with a lot of humor, which is is just is a magical touch to point out the ill wills, to point out things about yourself, and then do it with humor. It's just you would think he was a writer or something like that. There's he. I don't often think about how people write their lyrics. Like, do they write them before they do the music? Like when I think of The Cure, which is my favorite band, um, I know a lot of times that Robert Smith writes the lyrics after he writes the song. So he does the music and figures out the songs, and then he kind of puts in the lyrics most of the time. I feel like, especially when you hear like early versions of a forest, right? Like there's different words, and then it's sort of evolved into something else. Like with Matt Johnson, I feel like he's one that writes the lyrics before, and he makes them fit into the bars, into the songs, by the way he sings it, and then also because they're so eloquent and they're so, I guess, poetic. A lot of times, I really think the world of Matt Johnson and his music and his lyrics. And for me to think about some of these lyrics, that just goes to show you how excellent I think he is, because that's not something I normally get. But but yeah, I get the feeling that he's writing like words for a book, or at least a poem. But often, he makes it work into the songs and the way he sings it. It's just really cool. What one thing about the album, you can always expect to hear not only catchy music, but a lot of great instrumentation, and also a lot of unique instruments, and maybe some instruments that you normally wouldn't hear in rock music or pop music or synth pop music, which this kind of blends all three of them together. And Matt Johnson, even back in 1984, he's not afraid to use a drum machine. There's a lot of actually good dance songs in here. When you think of like Perfect, has a nice groove to it. Certainly Giant has a great groove to it. There's parts of Soul Mining. The end of Last Minute and a Half is a good dance part. Uncertain Smile has a good dance groove to it. There's a lot of really good dance moves. Of course, the opener, I've been waiting for tomorrow, has a great attention getting beat and bass line, and it just kind of it was. I think that if you heard this album for the first time and you heard the first track, especially the first like minute, it's like nothing you've ever quite heard before. And but it sets the tone, because there's a lot of drum machines in here, a lot of dance music, but it's also an interesting perspective on pop music or rock music, whatever you call it. But going into the tracks, just a lot of catchiness in here. The first track, again, I've been waiting for tomorrow all my life. It comes out with the big beat and again the aggressive bass line and the spacey sounds in there. Really good opener. 7.25 stars. I think it's a very good track. And then track number 2, This Is the Day. Great song. Fiddle and the accordion, great harmony. The layering of the vocals in the chorus is great, especially at the end, and then the long fade out. Really cool with the really long intro too. It's like a long fade in, like 30, 35, 40 seconds, which is really different. And I just love the vocals. This is the day. Your life will surely change. Just great. 9.5 stars. It's just an excellent track. It's great. It's one of my favorite all-time tracks by the. And then it goes into the sinking feeling, track number 3. This just shows you how clever Matt is, like in the song after going to that last song, and then it goes into the sinking feeling, the guitar riff, the groove. It's very catchy, the bass line, and then it goes into an organ solo towards the end, fades out. 8.25 stars with that one. And then You can see here's a copy of Uncertain Smile, the single, track number 4. Wow, what an amazing song. A perfect pop song. This is, and the funny thing is, it's a perfect pop song and it's pushing almost 7 minutes. Like, that's how good this song is. Like, it's a perfect pop song in a Matt Johnson way. The verses are magic. It's one of his best vocal performances ever. I feel like the acoustic guitar, the nice rhythm, the keyboards, and then you almost have a 3 minute. I mean, it depends on where you think it stops, but 2 to 3.5 minute piano solo. Could this be the best piano solo that's ever been in a synth pop song? Like, it's just a amazing piano solo, just epic. It's kind of got a bluesy note to it. It's kind of got that ballroom. I wouldn't say ballroom. It's kind of like a bar room kind of piano. Like, got a lot of like soul in there and blues feel. It's just an amazing song. And then to think he wraps it up with that chorus is just amazing. You would think like if he would have edited this track and it would have been like that 3.5 4 minute, like you would think that this would have been a big hit because it's got all the makings of one of the most catchiest tracks of the 80s. And I think and it's just, but knowing Matt Johnson, he doesn't want to keep it predictable, and just do a basic pop song. Even on this is the day, you got that long fade out. You know what I mean? It's just, it doesn't want to be a pop song, but it's just a beautiful pop song. So he seems to do things where it's unconventional pop, and I mean to be almost a 7 minute track and it be turned into a single, it's just amazing, and it's just a perfect song. I give it 10 stars. Amazing, amazing, amazing. Uncertain Smile, and I love the lyrics too. A howling wind that blows the litter as the rain flows. A street lamp's pour orange-colored shapes through your windows. A broken soul stares from a pair of watering eyes. Uncertain emotions force an uncertain smile. Amazing, amazing lyrics. I love the visual, um, the visual that those lyrics give is just great. It's so simple. It's like sometimes when the like you think of lyrics like they have to be the end all be all and the meaning of life and things like that. I can remember when I used to try to write songs when I was a kid. Um, I would, I really, when you write poems, I don't know if you've ever taken like a poem class or something like that, or an exercise and try to write a poem, but you always think of like these big words, and it's kind of very amateurish, I suppose. I mean, especially since I was young, but you think of like roses are red, violets are blue, like it's very obvious, right? But like when you can do things that make you think about something that's so simple in poetry, it's like some of the simplest things in life are some of the most beautiful. And when somebody, can write something like that, just looking out a window and it gives such a visual and it ties back to, you know, um, uncertain emotions force an uncertain smile. It's just like, just something as simple as a smile he writes about, like, but it's an uncertain smile. It's so creative and so visual. It just gives you a lot of makes you think in a different way, I suppose. Not necessarily about any particular subject, but it's more about your feelings and more what kind of emotions he was feeling at that particular time and why is it an uncertain smile. Like it's just great. 10 stars. I mean, again, it's just a magic song. I mean, wow, what a song! What a song! And then it goes into the second half of the record. The Twilight Hour is actually my least favorite song on the album, but I still give it 6.5 stars. I still think it's a good album, good song, right in between good and very good. Maybe the only misstep in the album, I feel like, it's a bit long, it's a bit meandering, maybe a little selfish in a way. It doesn't really quite go anywhere, um, but still, it's really good and it's got some really good sounds in it. But it feels like if there was going to be a deeper cut, because this is kind of the break, the start of the second side of the album. After such an amazing song, Uncertain Smile, after such an amazing side, with This Is the Day as well. It kind of you kind of feel like if there's going to be a down part of the album, or maybe a ballad or something like that, then maybe it'd be a little bit better than this song. That's the only drawback that I have for the album, but I still think it's a really good song. It feels like a break in the album, but it feels like an intermission. It feels like it's very introspective. It's very personal. And then you go into the title track, Soul Mining. This one's obviously a little bit better, I feel like. The beat and the keys are really cool. I give this one 7.5 stars. And then it goes into Giant, which is a special song, no doubt. The epic build, the chanting, how it comes back in and fades in, the drums, and then that really 80s bass line comes in. Do 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 do. So simple, so perfect. It just rides out into the distance, and I love the keys and the specific tone of that keys, the keys at the end there, that synth. The tone is so, and then the lower synth kind of starts to swell, and it's just perfect. And then it just kind of rides off into the distance. 9.5 minute song can be this amazing. Like, how often do you constantly, or you want to replay a 9.5 minute song? How often do you want to play a song, repeat a song that's 7 minutes, like Uncertain Smile? This album has multiple songs where you play over and over, and they're very long songs. Like, it's not too often that I want to repeat it and take another trip again on Giant and listen to it again when it's pushing almost 9 minutes. It's such an underrated track, and every time you think of it, and then you come to it, you know that it's a great track, and you know that it always wins you over. But then you're always like, oh, it's 9.5 minutes. But then it just pulls you in and takes you along for the ride. 9.25 stars. And then to follow it up, I know some of the early editions didn't have the track Perfect in it, but what a perfect way to end the albums. And so great that they added this track onto it. I think it puts the cherry on top for the album. It's such a great way to end the album in a Matt Johnson way. So many good songs on here. I mean, sounds on here, the horns, the xylophone, the bass line. What a song. Probably the most sing-along song on the album, besides maybe even more so than This Is the Day. Just an amazing song. 9 stars. That's 4 9-star songs out of one album. Amazing. Half the songs are 9 stars because there's only 8 tracks on here. Amazing album. Amazing album. Maybe the only drawback of the album is that it's 8 songs, but when you think of, there's only one song that's below 4 minutes, and there's 2 songs right around over 7 minutes. There's 5 of them that are over 5 minutes. So it's not a short album by any stretch. It's actually, in a way, it's especially for the early 80s, which is natural for the early 80s. It wasn't until the later 80s that albums started to get to 50, 60, 70 minutes and things like that, double albums, etc. More so in the early 80s, especially late 70s, like 30 minutes to 45, 42 minutes was kind of the range, and for the most part, albums are probably around like 35 to 38 minutes, but 3 to 4 minute songs per track, and that's 10 songs on an album, you get there right around 40 minutes, a little bit under. But here, you got 8 songs, but they're just so epic, and so it doesn't really draw back. But in a way, it's almost like perfect because there's 4 songs on each side. And I've never really thought about it until I just, played this album again. But one of the things that made me think about the flow of an album and why to put 4 tracks on one side versus putting 5 tracks on one side, or sort of, I'm sure maybe he extended the song so he didn't have to put 10 songs on the album and it just turned into something more. But, you would think that a lot of times people would go to like 9 songs or 10 songs, but, here he didn't do that. But it's interesting when you think of an album at the time. This is still, right around the birth of CDs being made in 84. So he's probably thinking more how it's going to fit on an album. And I think there's something to be said, and I've never really looked into it, but maybe it is something to look at. I'm not sure if anybody's done a video or thought about this before, but you know, the way an album flows when you think of like one side to the other side. On one side, a lot of times albums have 5 songs, right? So you kind of have maybe an opener, and then whatever that second track is going to be the sort of the direction maker, and then maybe the third is either a ballad or upbeat, you know, and then it sort of comes down and maybe closes out. So it's almost like listening to one cohesive flowing thought because it's 5 songs. Well, when you take out the fifth song, there's only 4. So when you go to 1, 2, then you're already halfway through the album. So it does the arc in a different way. I don't know. I've never really thought about that, but maybe there's something to be said that this album is 4 songs. And so in a strange way, they feel like singles versus a sort of an album flow, if that makes sense. And that probably helps because they're also a little bit longer. What an amazing song, an album though. Again, I feel like Matt Johnson is such a genius. I mean, you know, not because of the obvious, because of the songs or because what he does, but a lot of times, again, he makes me enjoy sounds that I normally wouldn't necessarily think of or enjoy, and a lot of times I don't like straightforward lyrics, you know, that are about like the government or the ills will. I mean, the world's ills or something like that. Maybe a little bit too political sometimes. Matt Johnson, I just listen in and go along for the ride because I know he has a creative perspective on things and a lot of humor in it. But yeah, it's my thoughts on the soul mining. I knew it was going to be a big hitter. I knew it was going to be an important review. I knew it was going to rival probably maybe the top 10, top 20 album of the 1980s. I mean, it's going to be interesting where it sits in my all-time top 1980s albums, maybe even all-time albums. Maybe it could be in the top 50 all-time albums. I could definitely see it in the top 50, but we'll see where it ranks. I add up the stars. It comes to a 67 and a quarter stars divided by 8. Very strong score of an 84. I give it an extra 3 points as well. The recording, the instrumentation, the catchiness, just a lot of good things on here. The flow of the album. And when I go into this album, I wasn't sure if I would give it extra points, and I wasn't sure if this would get into the 80s. And I had a feeling it would get into the 80s, and sure enough, it got in the 80s. But when I thought of giving the overall score any additional points, should I give it because it is what it is? But, you know, for me to think about this with the excitement that I'm reviewing this, you know, album again, and just shows you how it excites me every time I listen to it, and there's surprises every time I listen to it, and I forget how catchy it is and how thought-provoking it is and how enjoyable it is. And the great thing about on top of that is it's very sing-along like when you think of the Perfect and This Is the Day, Uncertain Smile, there's so many songs in here that I sing along to. I mean, just an amazing album. I gave it an extra 3 points for the overall the album. So that lands it at 87 out of 100 on the high side of an excellent album, almost on an all-time classic. It's verging right on there. It's super close. It's you know, it's just a great album. Can't say enough good things about it. So yeah, that's my thoughts on Soul Mining. If there's anything that you'd like me to review, my email's down below. Just send me a message, and I will get back to you. All right, thanks so much, and we'll see you on the next video.
Electric Cafe.